Let's all eat together in our new family.
The Williams family conspicuously relishes their steaks. But inexplicably, only a familiar cup of noodles sits before me. Across from me, Catherine remains silent, looking down. Amelia leans in asking,
Oh, Catherine, what's wrong? Don't worry, eat up. From now on, we're your family instead of your mother.
Ignoring her words, Catherine looks coldly at Amelia, then strides to my side and says in a clear voice,
Let's go home.
I nod in agreement. Yeah. As we head to the entrance, a flustered John blocks our way.
Catherine, what are you doing?
Just thinking of going home, to avoid wasting any more time.
What? Do you even realize what you're saying?
John, visibly irritated, raises his voice and grabs Catherine's arm. Catherine shakes off his hand and shouts loudly,
Do you even know what you're doing?
Then, Catherine and I confront the Williams family with a certain truth. I'm Michelle, 50 years old. Having lost my husband to illness 18 years ago, I've raised my daughter Catherine single-handedly. At the time of my husband's death, Catherine was only 7. Wanting to spare her any hardship, because of being raised by a single parent, I aimed to provide financial stability at the very least. It was also to fulfill my husband's dream. Determined, I relied on my parents and after-school programs, working tirelessly. In doing so, I often left Catherine feeling lonely.
Why doesn't Mom wait at home for me? Other moms welcome their kids home.
Catherine said that on a summer day when she had entered the 2nd grade of elementary school, she was biting her lower lip and there were tears in her eyes. It felt like a punch to the head. Caught up in work every day, I nearly lost sight of what mattered most. The most important thing was Catherine, yet I made her wear such a face. I'm sorry, Catherine. Gradually, I started to cut back on work where I could. Still, compared to families with both parents present, our time together seemed limited. Even when I came home early, there were times I had to work. I'm sorry, Catherine. After finishing overtime, I rushed through dinner and bath time, and hurried myself to put Catherine to bed. That's when I could finally catch a moment to breathe and see her peacefully sleeping face. It filled me with indescribable guilt. To think she can't fully enjoy her childhood. But without work, we can't live. If I fall, our home ends. Every day was a struggle. But it paid off, and by the time Catherine graduated middle school, my job had stabilized, and we started to have some financial breathing room. As a high schooler, Catherine became quite independent, often saying, "Mom, aren't you working too much?" showing concern for my health. Seeing her mature beyond her years made me feel both proud and a bit guilty. From then on, Catherine kept growing, advancing on her own, and I didn't have to worry much. Now, Catherine has turned 25. She's well adjusted to her job and living on her own. Kids grow up faster than parents think. At this rate, Catherine's wedding might be just around the corner. I find myself getting emotional, imagining her in a wedding dress. Still, I haven't heard any hints of her dating. I guess marriage talks are still off the table for a while. Just when I thought that, Catherine called me. It started as casual chit-chat, but then she paused and shyly brought it up.
Actually, there's someone I'm thinking of marrying.
I was so surprised I almost screamed. Catherine's unexpected romantic news was genuinely delightful. Tell me, what's he like? I wanted to bombard her with questions, but I restrained my curiosity. After a moment of silence, Catherine said,
He's a senior at work. He's competent. He asked me out, and we've been dating for a while.
That's wonderful. He must be a great guy. I might be biased, but Catherine is smart, kind, and well-raised. I've heard nothing but good things about her at work.
Clients often request her specifically, saying she's thorough and reliable.
I felt proud knowing how Catherine does her job earnestly.
There's a lot I can learn from him at work.
Is that so? Catherine's voice was lively as she spoke about him. I wonder what kind of person he is. Catherine's first boyfriend. I want to know more. But I didn't want to pressure her, so I waited for her to share more in her own time. After a while, she'll probably bring up more about their relationship. That's what I thought as I watched over her. Then, a few weeks after our first conversation, Catherine contacted me again.
Sorry for the sudden call, but I want you to meet him sometime.
The invitation came much sooner than I expected. I was surprised but thrilled. Wow, I'm so happy. Let me know when. I'll make time. I'm looking forward to it. Despite my excitement over the phone, Catherine seemed to have mixed feelings. When I asked what's wrong, she answered,
Well, don't get your hopes up too much. I just hope you won't be disappointed.
Her response was unexpected. What are you talking about? I'm not overprotective, and I don't have high standards. Most importantly, I trust your choice.
Yay? Thank you.
Talking on the phone always leaves me a bit frustrated because I can't see her face. What kind of face was she making then? I didn't know. Why would she, always so positive, introduce her boyfriend so hesitantly? It's not like her. I was concerned, but thought she might just be nervous. I convinced myself that way and looked forward to meeting Catherine and her boyfriend. Then the day of the meeting came. I'm so nervous. Does my outfit look okay?
It's fine, you look great. Besides, I'm the one who's really nervous.
We shared a laugh and headed to a well-known restaurant in the area. It's a popular spot for business discussions. Originally, we planned to have a leisurely chat during the weekend. But it turned out he was busy on weekends, so we decided to meet after work. We arrived first, and soon Catherine's boyfriend appeared.
Nice to meet you. I'm John.
Nice to meet you. I'm Michelle. I'm glad we could meet. When I greeted him, John responded with a smile. His tall, slender figure looked sharp in a well-tailored suit. He had a modern hairstyle, fitting for a man of his age. His friendly approach was exactly that of a promising young salesman. Since Catherine chose him, I felt there was no need for me to intervene. However, having been forewarned about certain things, I was on guard about what kind of person would show up, which left me feeling unexpectedly relieved. He's quite charming. What was Catherine so worried about?
Though our relationship is still new, I hope to marry Catherine one day, and meeting you today has been wonderful.
I'm glad you reached out. It was reassuring to hear he was serious about their relationship. I was glad to hear that, especially as a mother. He's serious, reliable, and interesting to talk to. Despite being such a good person, I wondered what Catherine was worried about. He's indeed a great guy. While thinking this, we continued chatting. As the drinks flowed and the conversation became lively, the atmosphere began to shift subtly. John's face turned red, and he was in high spirits.
You know, when I first heard about the single-parent thing, I was honestly a bit put off, but I'm glad you're her mom.
Ah, really? I almost dropped my glass. Even though we were drinking, I didn't expect him to be so blunt at our first meeting. I believe my face must have stiffened.
Hey, John.
In a hurry, Catherine placed her hand on John's shoulder. John shrugged off her hand with a shake of his shoulder.
It's fine. I'm giving a compliment here. Catherine, you're really detail-oriented, aren't you?
It's not that she's simply being detail-oriented. I thought to myself. Seeing John like this, Catherine sighed and held her head.
John often misspeaks. I'm sorry, Mom.
Oh, no, it's okay. Saying it didn't bother me would be a lie. I've faced prejudice against being a single parent more times than I can count. It's something you never get used to. It always hits hard, right in the chest. In the midst of this slightly tense atmosphere, John was the only one seemingly enjoying his drink. That was the moment I first felt a sense of discomfort towards John. At first, I thought he was an impeccable young man. But as the drinks flowed, his words became more and more loose. There were moments that made me want to shake my head in disbelief.
Catherine is too good at her job, you know. She has a great reputation at work, but as her boyfriend, it makes me feel somewhat sidelined.
John said that while resting his chin on his hand. I was perplexed, but he didn't seem to notice it at all. Maybe he didn't even care. But since Catherine is working hard, I tried to smooth things over with some irritation, but John waved his hands dismissively.
You don't get it. Catherine is overdoing it. And you know, women should have some vulnerability, right? It makes them more endearing. Long ago, in your era, wasn't it like that?
Him saying as though I'm from the distant past made me feel old. It wasn't wrong, but it certainly didn't feel good. Catherine tried to stop him with a stern look, but John just drained his glass, looking quite pleased. I wonder, times have changed, John. It's different from when we were young.
Well, your time was decades ago, right? But still, even today, a woman needs to support her man.
By the end of it, I was just bewildered and could only give a wry smile. After returning home, Catherine called to apologize.
I'm really sorry, Mom.
It's okay, I was happy to meet him. That was the truth. I'm genuinely happy to have met Catherine's partner, but I can't wholeheartedly support him spending his life with Catherine. I find it hard to celebrate. As if sensing my feelings, Catherine added, trying to make excuses for him.
John's been having a tough time at work lately. He's usually more mellow.
I see, he must be tired. Can't blame him.
Sorry.
If what we see when he drinks is his true nature, what then? They said they were dating with marriage in mind. But is John really the right one for Catherine? A cloud of doubt spread in my heart, but I couldn't express it to Catherine. I had insufficient grounds for criticism, though it seemed somewhat tactless. I guess all we can do is keep watching. Muttering to myself, I sighed. Let's just see how things go for a while. Yet, just weeks after that meeting, Catherine dropped a bombshell.
Actually, John proposed to me yesterday, and he wants me to visit his parents' home with you.
What, you mean to get married? I almost blurted out, with John, but carefully chose my words. Catherine, do you want to marry John? If it's what she wants, maybe I should accept it. But as a parent, how could I send off my daughter with this unease? I nearly intervened. As I asked nervously, Catherine spoke in a low voice after a few seconds of silence.
Well, there's something I haven't told you, Mom.
What? After learning the truth from Catherine, I decided to act immediately. For my dear daughter's sake. There was no time for hesitation. And a few days later, Catherine and I visited John's parents' home.
I'm so glad you could come.
John greeted us as he walked from the nearest station to his family home. Catherine, John, and I then walked towards his family home.
Both my parents are really excited about the marriage. They've been eagerly waiting. My mom has thought of Catherine as her own daughter even before meeting her.
Despite Catherine saying that marriage is still on hold, John and his parents seem totally on board with the idea. I'm looking forward to meeting them. I braced myself for what was to come and managed a smile. After about a 10-minute walk, we arrived at John's family home. As he said, his parents greeted us with smiles.
Well, look at that. What a lovely young lady you are. You must be Catherine.
Pleased to meet you.
Catherine responded calmly with a smile, but I was taken aback right from the start. Speaking so casually with Catherine in front of me, her mom, on our first meeting. Emilia noticed my stare and gave a forced smile.
Hi, you must be Catherine's mother. Michelle, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Was I too presumptuous in front of you?
No. As Catherine and I felt uncomfortable, her husband, Lucas, interjected.
Well, she's going to be our daughter anyway, so it doesn't matter. Come on, Catherine, come inside.
Yes. Excuse us?
It seems Lucas works at the same company as John and Catherine. They work in different departments, so that day is their first face-to-face meeting. Both parents are so casual at our first meeting. What kind of people are they? While I was still shocked, John looked at me, puzzled.
What's wrong? Come on in, Michelle. Our home is quite nice. You don't have to be shy around here.
Was he thinking I was overwhelmed? I wasn't overwhelmed at all. I was just taken aback by his rather unique parents. I never expected them to be so casual with their future daughter-in-law upon the first meeting. Sure, we'll come in. Feeling something simmering inside, I entered the house. The home was as grand and beautiful as they proudly claimed.
It might feel different from your home at first, but you'll get used to it, Catherine.
Amelia glanced at me and put her arm around Catherine's shoulder. Was she implying that we lived in a shabby home because we were a single-parent family?
The house is big, so cleaning is tough, but you'll manage, right, Catherine? You must have done chores growing up in a single-parent home. That's normal, isn't it? Poor thing.
I wanted to interject, but held back. Catherine started to say something, but without giving her a chance to respond, Amelia ushered her into the living room.
You must be hungry. Sit down, sit down.
On the living room table were luxurious-looking steaks for each seat.
We ordered from a famous local shop because of your coming, Catherine. Today is a special day.
Indeed, the steaks looked expensive. As we were guided to our seats, Catherine and I immediately noticed something amiss. This is... As I pointed to what was prepared in front of my seat, the Williams family all smirked.
In this world, you know there are all kinds of people. You've heard it, right? Living in different worlds. Today we wanted Catherine and you to understand that.
Amelia exclaimed joyfully. Next to her, Lucas and John, sitting beside Catherine, watched the scene with amusement. Their intentions were too clear, and I snorted. I see. So, luxurious steaks for everyone, and cup noodles in front of me. John clapped his hands.
Exactly. You're quick to catch on. Cup noodles represent Catherine and your past, while the luxurious steaks represent our family and Catherine's future. Isn't that clear?
Catherine remained silent, her head down. I too kept quiet, glaring at the Williams family. Thinking she had triumphed, Amelia said with excitement,
Let's all eat together in our new family.
The Williams family ostentatiously devoured their steaks. Noticing my frozen state, she exclaimed, "Oh," with feigned surprise.
I've just added hot water to your cup noodles, so please wait about 3 minutes. You're used to it, right? Sorry, but we'll start eating. Come on, Catherine, eat up.
With that, Amelia peered into Catherine's face. At that moment, Catherine slowly stood up. Amelia looked at her with puzzled eyes.
Oh, Catherine, what's wrong? Don't worry, eat up. From now on, we'll be your family instead of Michelle.
Catherine, with a cold gaze, ignored her words and walked briskly to my side, saying in a clear voice,
Let's go home.
I nodded in agreement. Yes. As we headed to the entrance, a flustered John blocked our way.
Catherine, what are you doing?
We're leaving. There's no need to waste any more time.
What? Do you even realize what you're saying?
John raised his voice in irritation and grabbed Catherine's arm. Catherine shook off his hand and shouted loudly.
Do you even know what you're doing?
John was momentarily baffled, then snorted dismissively.
Complaining about rudeness again can't be helped, right? This is like a ceremony for you.
What?
Catherine glared at him, and John shrugged with a sigh.
You always brag about Michelle, but she's just a poor single mother, right? A widow who couldn't even remarry for decades. I'm inviting you from that pitiful world to our affluent one, and you're still not satisfied.
The notion of a widow unable to remarry lingered. There are indeed people who think like that. Being a single parent often led to being shunned or looked down upon. Thankfully, there have been people interested in me. But since my husband passed away, Catherine has been my top priority. While there are benefits to remarrying, there are also drawbacks. After much thought, I decided not to remarry until Catherine got married. And she knows that. Catherine sighed deeply while looking at John.
I thought you were competent at work, but it turns out you're quite a mess personally.
What?
Angered, John turned red as Catherine questioned him.
Aren't you the type to separate work from personal life? But you might want to think about that from now on. You never know where work and personal life intersect.
Is this a threat? What does this old woman have to do with my job?
Catherine looked at me and nodded slightly. There was no need to stay silent anymore. Turning to John, I cleared my throat and smiled sweetly. Well, we're meeting for the first time, but actually, your company and our company have a deep connection.
What? My company?
John's face, previously flushed, turned pale.
What do you mean, company?
Catherine is cautious, so she didn't tell you. Actually, your company is a subsidiary of our company. My company, as I call it, was founded by my late husband. He had an interest in the apparel industry and started the business based on plans he made since his student days. The company has been doing fairly well, but after my husband passed away, I took over. I don't have the same business sense as my husband. Initially, it was quite a struggle. But I desperately wanted to carry on what he left behind into the future. I thought if the company stabilized, we would be financially secure. Working while raising young Catherine was challenging, but with help from others, we gradually improved. Recently, the business has been booming.
That's nonsense. Catherine never said anything like that.
John nervously looked at her, who didn't even meet his eyes as she responded.
I don't want any special treatment just because I'm my mom's daughter. Only the president, Noah, knows about this in our company.
Noah, he knows.
Catherine nodded and then gave me a meaningful look.
By the way, Noah has been a fan of my mom for a long time. But because of me, he never made a move.
Hey, don't say unnecessary things. Secretly, after my husband passed away, Noah had confessed his feelings to me several times. I turned him down, deciding not to think about it until Catherine was fully independent. I thought it might be awkward personally, but Noah continued to treat me normally, maintaining a good friendship. John's mouth moved rapidly, his eyes darting back and forth.
What? Michelle is the president of our parent company, and Noah is a fan. What? What?
There will be no marriage between you and Catherine, so please don't act too familiar with me. John looked utterly confused. But the conversation wasn't over yet. I was almost ready to leave because of the treatment we received, but there was something else I needed to ask him. That's the very reason I came here today. John, I heard you have a good reputation at work, but you've been taking advantage of that to do whatever you want, haven't you?
What?
John's face turned pale, and he twitched nervously. He probably knew what this was about. His eyes swam with uncertainty. I heard you've been indiscriminately making advances on the temporary staff. Surely, with your position, many would happily accept.
How do you know that?
John's eyes widened. He glanced at his parents briefly before shaking his head at me.
No, you've got it wrong. I did approach them, but it was to improve the office atmosphere.
His nervous behavior was suspicious, no matter how you looked at it. It's surprising he could lie so easily. If he made advances on others in this manner, anyone would doubt him. I, too, might have been fooled by John at the first meeting. With such a facade, it's no wonder temporary employees fell for it. Even after that, he still tried making excuses furiously. You made the same excuses to Catherine, didn't you? Because she's honest and serious, she believed you completely. Even though she trusted him, the idea of marriage made her anxious again, and that's when she confided in me. After hearing everything from Catherine, I became really anxious too. So, after his proposal, I hired a detective agency to investigate him.
That's an invasion of privacy.
John was completely flustered. But his reaction had said it. All the findings were damning. John had physical relationships with multiple women. Some were even hinted at contract extensions, despite him having no such authority. Poor things, they were all deceived. John looked down, trembling, but suddenly raised his head and shouted.
So what? That alone boosts their motivation for work. I'm not wrong. In fact, I'm doing something beneficial for the company.
No sign of remorse, just back talk. It's appalling how unapologetic he was. How many temporary employees were manipulated by this man? Temporary workers are, in a way, employees entrusted to us by the agency. You seemed to look down on them, but they are not the kind of people who deserve that.
That's just a pretty lie. Temp workers are just a bunch of people who couldn't become permanent employees, right? Just a collection of low-grade people. Of course, we permanent employees are superior.
There's no saving this man. The fact that his parents were nodding in agreement behind him was incomprehensible to me. He must have been raised with a certain kind of elite education from a young age. Comparing himself to others, looking down on them, and basking in a sense of superiority is just his and their way. Talking to such people is probably a waste of time. It seems like it will take a long time for you to understand. But well, if you find yourself in that situation, maybe you'll quickly learn the hard way.
What?
Because you'll be unemployed, by your standards. You're going to be below a temp worker, right, the lowest of the low. John looked at me with pleading eyes, shaking his head.
I don't understand what you mean.
Do you think the company will continue to employ you after finding out how you've been treating the temp staff? You're fired, Noah. He was furious.
No, wait, that can't be true. Impossible.
John tried to grab my arm, but Catherine knocked his hand away.
Don't touch my mom with your filthy hands. Different worlds, huh? Good. We don't live in the same vile world as you.
No, wait, Catherine.
Tears welled up in John's eyes as he approached, but Catherine didn't even glance at him.
I thought you were a nice person at first. I was deceived, but now I feel nothing for you.
Catherine pulled my hand and said, "Let's go," but his parents tried to stop us.
Wait, Catherine, John will change.
Yes, he made a stupid mistake, but he has a promising future. It would be a waste to leave him now. You'll regret it later.
His parents were visibly panicking. It was no wonder, as John and Lucas were the main breadwinners of the Williams family. With John's dismissal, their income would plummet. No more steaks for a while. And there was another reason for Lucas's desperation. Standing in front of them, I addressed Lucas. "Did you think it wouldn't be discovered?"
What do you mean?
It's not just John who's been foolish, right? Like father, like son, both of you are fools. Lucas was sweating profusely.
Please, don't let the president know about me.
Everything is already known. Good luck with job hunting, both of you. But in this industry, rumors spread fast, so finding a new job might be tough. The way they hung their heads seemed hereditary. John and Lucas both knelt down, utterly defeated. As I left the room and looked back, they were the spitting image of defeat. Later, John and Lucas were both fired. It wasn't just the temp worker issue. They were found to have committed various deceptions. Despite being high earners, suddenly becoming unemployed, the two of them saw their living standards plummet to rock bottom. They had to sell their house, and now, the family of three lives in a quite old apartment. Steaks are off the menu for a while. Notably, both John and Lucas were regarded as competent workers, so their dismissal caused quite a stir within the company. I have no interest in John and Lucas's future. My only concern was whether Catherine was shocked by these events. But it seems I needn't have worried.
I need to gain more experience. I was deceived because I was inexperienced.
She's been actively going out to eat with male colleagues and acquaintances introduced by friends. Despite being my daughter, she's incredibly positive and reliable. That's just like Catherine, I think. As for me, triggered by this incident, Catherine told me she wants me to let go of her.
It's odd for me to say this after failing, but if you, Mom, want to marry someone, please do. I'm already 25, so you don't have to hesitate or worry for me.
It seems Catherine is still bothered by John's comment about me being an unwed widow. I don't necessarily desire marriage, but the thought of having someone to share my life with is nice. Encouraged by Catherine, if he asks me out again, I might just accept without any excuses. After decades of acquaintance, I believe I could have a happy and peaceful life with him.